Now here to join us is the lawyer representing Mark Houck, Peter Breen. Peter, thank you for joining us. You know, Peter, before we came to air, I got a letter from a bunch of U.S. senators who are sending a letter to Merrick Garland, Attorney General Merrick Garland in the United States. You know, I find this really, really interesting, Peter. This line, in they're talking about officers will. This is according to Merrick Garland's own memorandum about how we're supposed to, entry and whatnot. Officers will be trained in de-escalation tactics and techniques designed to gain voluntary compliance from a subject before using force. Use of force. Peter, what type of force did they use? Were they restrained?
When you send 20 to 30 federal agents with ballistic shields, long guns, helmets, all of the whole thing to a peaceful man's home, parking 15 cars across his front lawn, that would not be seen as a de-escalation tactic in anyone's book. This is an outrageous and reckless raid on an innocent man's home. Can you imagine if the 4-year-old or 6-year-old children of Mark went outside with their toy guns because they saw their daddy being taken away, their innocent, head of their household taken away? The federal government could have caused a terrible, terrible tragedy here, utterly unnecessary. We told them months before we would bring him in if they decided to charge him. We also told them they have no case based on a court decision we won just 3 years ago in this same district that said altercations like these between a pro-life sidewalk counselor and an abortion clinic escort that are unrelated to the provision of abortion, they don't count as federal offenses. If there's a crime there, it's dealt with in the local system. As you alluded to, the local courts threw this out. So that should have ended the matter. Instead, we've now got the Department of Justice from D.C. bringing a prosecution against an innocent man.
Yeah, and at one point, the altercation, I believe the altercation at the center of this was Mark was there trying to counsel women who may or may not want to have abortions, but in front of a clinic. Mark's 12-year-old son was there. This man pushes or gets involved somehow. Mark tries to get the guy away from his 12-year-old son like any father would do. And somehow that is that what they're considering a violation of the FACE Act?
Yes, and a couple extra details that haven't come out yet. They were 50 feet away from the entrance, and there were no clinic patients present. Mark and his son are away from the entrance. This guy comes from the entrance, this alleged victim, goes to them. So the alleged victim was the aggressor here, and we intend to make that case to the court.
Are you going to sue them, Peter? Yeah. I mean, are you going to sue this guy? But are you going to sue the FBI? I mean, because I cannot imagine why they would drag Mark out of his home when, number one, you're willing to cooperate. Number two, I'm not even sure there's a crime that was committed. Meanwhile, all the stuff that's going on the streets of the country, but it's got to be a bias case, no?
Well, we actually, when the state cases were thrown out, we were thinking about an abusive process case against this alleged victim, for dragging Mark through the state process. So that was where our minds were. Right now, though, the idea that the Senator Grassley letter, look, congressmen send letters all the time. That letter from Senator Grassley is extremely powerful. The questions are very specific. They clearly did a lot of research. They talked to key people. I would not want to be the attorney general on the other end of a hearing led by Senator Grassley, assuming the Republicans maybe take the Senate or at least take the House. When the attorney general gets called in front of them, I've said, look, I hope they invite the Houck family so the attorney general can apologize personally to what he did to them and their children who are having to process this terrible scene at their front door and on their front lawn.
At one point I read an account of Mark's wife. I can't remember her name, but she said that she tried to put the children away, but they could see right through the balcony. They could see overlooking into the front door where the FBI were there with guns and, as you point out, battering rams and shields and whatnot. That's got to have a lasting effect on some of these young people's minds.
Well, they're getting counseling for the kids. But as Ryan Marie will tell you, the older ones, you can try to work them through it. The little guys, they've got 7 kids from age 13 down to 2. So they're very busy at home. but it's the younger ones. I've got a 4 and a 6-year-old, so they've got 2 right in that range. Tough to process for them. How do you explain that your hero, your dad, the head of your family, gets dragged out by men with guns? I mean, just how do you explain that to those little kids?
Very quickly, Peter, I also read an account where the FBI didn't have the warrant with them when they were banging on the door. They had to go back to the car. By the time Ryan Marie got the kids away, she came back and they were already gone. So she never had eyeballs on the warrant prior to them taking her husband away. About right?
Well, the pictures you showed were after all of the things had gone, and those guys, the agents, did finally come back and kind of give her the warrant. Yeah, and it was one of those things where you're going, could you at least had the courtesy of that? And I'll say this: we offered to bring him in, but in a normal circumstance, when the FBI decides to go and arrest somebody, they send a couple agents. You knock politely on the door. Guns are not drawn. You let the guy get his effects,
Right.
maybe finish his morning coffee, say goodbye to his family, and then take him downtown. So, I mean, this was just an abuse on multiple levels of normal process and practice. And
Well,
really
that doesn't seem to happen, Peter.
send a message.
Well, yeah, send a message. It didn't happen to Peter Navarro. It didn't happen to Roger Stone. It doesn't happen to people on the right. So let's do this, Peter Breen. Put Peter up on the screen. So the FBI agents, the agents that were there. I wear a law enforcement badge right here because I respect law enforcement. These people are law enforcement. Did it seem like they wanted to do this, or did it seem like these were orders and they were carrying out orders from above that they really didn't think they needed to be dragging a Christian innocent, or not innocent, but a Christian nice man not fighting, dragging him out with his kids watching?
Well, I don't want to reveal privileged information, but I can tell you, look, Mark Houck is a Christian evangelist, Catholic evangelist. So he is going to evangelize anybody that's in front of him. I mean, in a very polite and friendly way. Look, I didn't hear anything about an impoliteness or any lack of cordiality by the individual line agents. I hope that the Congress is able to pierce through this and maybe get a couple of those guys to come and testify about what were they told? Were you told you were going to a drug lord's home, to a mafia boss home? What were you told when you were sent in for this? Because, I mean, why would you go? And why, what were you told on the way in? And who made the decision to send them out?
We do this a lot, Peter. We ran out of time. We do this a lot, and we'll do it again. Hey, you got a FBI whistleblower? I'd love to see some of the emails and texts that go back on what were the instructions to the individual agents from who, because I think that would be FBI whistleblowers. Come on, you know where to find us. Check us out. Quickly.
And very quick, the website defendlifetoday.com, defendlifetoday.com to get updates and to support the case.
Got it. Peter Breen, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.